Ethan had never been the kind of person who stood out. He was the quiet one in every room, the boy who blended into the corners, who smiled politely but rarely spoke first. After years of keeping to himself, he decided to make one small change in his life: join a gym. It wasn't about muscles or appearance. It was about courage. He wanted to stop feeling invisible, to face something that scared him. What he didn't expect was how much that decision would change his heart. The gym smelled faintly of soap and metal, and the low thud of music made him feel out of place. He was about to turn back when a voice called out, "First time here?" The man who spoke had a kind smile, warm eyes that carried both confidence and something quieter underneath. "I'm Marcus," he said, offering his hand. Ethan's voice barely rose above the hum of music. "Yeah, first time. I'm Ethan." Marcus's grip was firm, but his tone stayed gentle, as if he could sense Ethan's nervousness. Over the next few days, Ethan returned, each time expecting to feel less out of place, and each time finding Marcus there, offering quiet encouragement. "You're improving," Marcus would say with an easy grin. Sometimes he'd stay after hours to correct Ethan's form or show him how to stretch properly. Their small talks turned into longer ones, about music, movies, and why Ethan preferred books to parties. Marcus listened, not out of politeness, but with real interest. For someone so used to being overlooked, that attention felt like sunlight breaking through clouds. One evening, as the gym emptied, Ethan noticed Marcus sitting alone, staring at his phone. He looked tired in a way that went deeper than physical exhaustion. Ethan hesitated before asking, "Long day?" Marcus smiled faintly. "You could say that." "My boyfriend's been away for work for months. It's complicated?" Ethan nodded, unsure what to say. It wasn't the kind of conversation he expected to have in a gym. Marcus quickly changed the topic, but something about the way he said boyfriend lingered in Ethan's mind. Not because he judged it, but because he felt something stir that he didn't want to name. Days passed. Their connection deepened quietly. It wasn't about flirtation, just comfort, the kind that comes from being truly seen. Marcus started asking about Ethan's college, his dreams, his fears. Ethan confessed he wanted to write one day but didn't believe he was interesting enough. Marcus laughed softly. You'd be surprised how interesting quiet people can be. When Marcus laughed, it wasn't loud. It was warm, like a secret shared between them. Ethan found himself watching for that smile, waiting for it each day. He told himself it was just friendship, but sometimes when their eyes met too long, his heart raced for reasons he couldn't explain. Then came the evening of the storm. The rain hit the windows so hard that the gym echoed with it. Most people had already left when Ethan finished his set. Marcus appeared beside him, holding out a towel. "You should head home soon. Roads might flood." Ethan glanced at the dark sky. "I walked here," Marcus frowned. "Then I'll drive you." The drive was quiet, the wipers struggling against the downpour. Ethan stared at the blur of streetlights while Marcus kept his eyes on the road. The air between them was heavy. Not uncomfortable, but full of something neither dared to name. When they reached Ethan's street, Marcus parked and turned slightly toward him. For a long moment, neither spoke. The sound of rain filled the silence. Then Marcus said softly, "You remind me what it feels like to be seen." Ethan froze. His throat tightened, his heartbeat quickened. He wanted to say something, anything, but the words wouldn't come. Marcus smiled faintly, as if regretting his honesty. "Sorry, that sounded strange. I just mean, you have a way of listening. It helps?" Ethan nodded, his voice barely above a whisper. It didn't sound strange. Marcus's gaze lingered, his expression unreadable. Then he smiled again and looked away. "Get home safe, okay?" Ethan stepped out into the rain, his heart pounding harder than it had during any workout. He stood on his porch, drenched, watching the car disappear into the storm. That night, sleep didn't come easily. Ethan lay awake, replaying the drive over and over, the way Marcus's voice softened when he spoke, the way he'd looked at him before turning away. He told himself it meant nothing, that Marcus was just kind, just lonely. But deep down, something inside him shifted. He had always believed love was something that belonged to other people, bold people, confident people. Yet for the first time, he felt the faint ache of it inside his own chest. By morning, The rain had stopped, but his thoughts hadn't. He caught his reflection in the window and barely recognized the boy staring back, a boy who had felt invisible all his life but now carried the dangerous memory of being seen. He didn't know what would come next. Only that something fragile had begun between them, something that shouldn't exist but already did. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was the beginning of something that would test his heart in ways he never imagined. ChatGPT said the days that followed the storm felt different, quieter, heavier. Ethan still went to the gym, but now each step inside carried an ache of anticipation. He would catch glimpses of Marcus helping other members, his voice steady and warm, yet his eyes seemed distant, searching. When their gazes met, neither lingered long. A strange understanding had formed between them, something that couldn't be spoken out loud. Weeks passed, and what had started as simple conversation began to carry deeper meaning. Marcus still offered small smiles, still checked on Ethan's form, but there was hesitation now, like every word balanced on the edge of something fragile. Ethan tried to convince himself that nothing had changed, that it was all in his head, but when Marcus laughed, his chest still tightened. And when Marcus wasn't there, the silence felt louder than before. One evening, Marcus found Ethan at the treadmill. "You've been avoiding me," he said lightly, though his tone hinted at hurt. Ethan looked down at his shoes. "I thought maybe I should." After that night, Marcus sighed, leaning against the railing. "I didn't mean to make things weird. Sometimes I talk too much." Ethan shook his head. "No, you didn't." Their eyes met again, and for a fleeting moment, it felt like the world around them stopped. Soon the walls they had tried to build began to crumble. Marcus invited Ethan to grab coffee one afternoon after training. It was supposed to be casual, just two friends talking. But the moment they sat down in that quiet corner cafe, the air shifted again. Marcus listened as Ethan talked about his classes, his struggles with confidence, his writing. "You have a writer's mind," Marcus said softly. "You notice things most people don't." Ethan blushed. "Maybe that's why I overthink everything." Marcus chuckled. "Or maybe that's why you feel so deeply." They met again. And again, always under the excuse of friendship, always just enough distance to make it seem harmless. Yet every conversation drew them closer. They started sharing details that belonged to private worlds. Marcus about his strained relationship with Adrian, Ethan about his loneliness and fear of being misunderstood. Marcus never spoke badly of Adrian, but Ethan could hear the fatigue in his words, the longing for something real and warm. One night, Marcus showed Ethan photos from a hiking trip he took years ago. Ethan admired the way his smile looked freer back then. "You look happy there," Ethan said. Marcus nodded slowly. "I was. Back before things got complicated." Ethan didn't ask for details. He didn't need to. The sadness in Marcus's tone told the story for him. Their bond began to stretch beyond the walls of the gym. Marcus started texting Ethan. Short messages at first, then longer ones. "Hope your day went well. You still working on that story?" "Couldn't sleep. Just thinking." Ethan would stare at those messages for minutes before replying. He told himself they were just friends, but friends didn't talk until midnight about things they couldn't tell anyone else. Liam, Ethan's best friend, was the first to notice the change. "You're different lately," he said one afternoon. "Happier but distracted." "Who is he?" Ethan froze, trying to laugh it off. "No one." But his hesitation gave him away. Liam's expression softened. "Be careful, okay? Sometimes the heart runs ahead of reason." Ethan nodded, though deep down he knew it was already too late. A few days later, Marcus asked Ethan to help him set up for a local community event at the gym. They worked side by side, hanging banners, arranging chairs, making small talk to cover the growing silence between them. When the event ended and everyone left, Ethan noticed a framed picture on the counter. A smiling Marcus with Adrian, their arms wrapped around each other. The photo looked perfect, but something in Marcus's eyes in that image didn't match the man Ethan knew now. Marcus caught him looking. "That was a long time ago," he said quietly. "We've changed." Ethan hesitated, his chest tightening. "You still love him?" Marcus took a deep breath. "Yeah, I think so. But sometimes love stops feeling like love and starts feeling like memory." The words hung heavy in the air. Ethan wanted to reach out, to comfort him, but he stopped himself. It wasn't his place, yet in that moment the distance between them vanished. As they cleaned up, their hands brushed. A jolt of warmth passed through Ethan, startling him. He looked up and found Marcus already watching him. Neither spoke. The silence was enough. The world outside the gym faded. The flicker of fluorescent lights, the hum of the air conditioner, the distant sound of rain beginning again. It was as if the universe held its breath. Marcus finally stepped back, his voice low. "Maybe this shouldn't happen." Ethan's reply came out as a whisper. "I know." But neither of them moved. For a few long seconds, they stood in that space between right and wrong, between want and restraint. Then Marcus turned away, running a hand through his hair. "I should go." For days afterward, Ethan avoided the gym. Every time he thought of Marcus, guilt tangled with longing, until he couldn't tell one from the other. He missed his messages, his laugh, the easy way he made Ethan feel less invisible, but he also hated himself for it. Then one night his phone buzzed. It was Marcus. "I miss talking to you." Ethan stared at the screen, his heart racing. He typed and deleted his reply again and again, before finally writing, "Me too." The moment he hit send, he felt both relief and regret. He knew he was walking deeper into something he couldn't control, something that felt right in the heart but wrong in every other way. Yet even as guilt settled in, a small part of him couldn't let go, because for the first time in his life, someone had looked at him and truly seen him. Adrian returned sooner than expected. The news came to Ethan through a short message from Marcus. "He's back." Those two words hit harder than Ethan expected. He sat on the edge of his bed, the phone glowing in his hand, feeling a strange mix of sadness and inevitability. He knew this day would come. What they shared was something fragile, suspended between silence and longing, and it could not last forever. At the gym, Marcus's demeanor changed. He smiled when people looked, laughed when they spoke, but the warmth that once reached his eyes was gone. Ethan noticed the difference immediately. Their usual conversations shortened, their glances carefully avoided. It was as though an invisible wall had been built overnight. Still, when Marcus passed by, the air between them carried the faint echo of everything unspoken. Ethan tried to bury himself in routine. He stayed longer in class, talked more to other people, even went out for coffee with Liam to distract himself. But nothing worked. His thoughts drifted back to the sound of Marcus's voice, the quiet connection they'd built, the night he said, "You remind me what it feels like to be seen." Those words haunted him. He knew they shouldn't, yet they played on repeat in the quiet corners of his mind. One evening, as the gym emptied, Marcus called out softly, "Can we talk?" Ethan turned, startled. They stood by the back exit where the soft hum of machines filled the silence. Marcus looked tired, eyes shadowed, shoulders tense. "I didn't mean to disappear," he said. "Adrian and I are trying to fix things." He noticed I'd changed. He didn't know why, but I did. He gave a weak smile. I owed him honesty, even if I couldn't tell him everything. Ethan swallowed hard. "That's good. You should try." He wanted his voice to sound supportive, but it came out thin, brittle. Marcus nodded, searching Ethan's face. "You were never supposed to get caught in the middle of my mess." "You didn't deserve that." For a moment, neither spoke. The weight of everything they'd shared, the late-night messages, the confessions, the near moments, hung between them like a ghost. Finally, Ethan said quietly, "I knew what it was. I just didn't want it to end like this." Marcus took a step closer but stopped himself. "If things were different," he began, then shook his head. "But they're not." He hesitated, then added, "You changed me, Ethan. You made me realize how lonely I'd become." His voice cracked slightly, and that broke something inside Ethan. The next few days passed like a blur. Ethan skipped the gym, unsure if he could face Marcus again. Liam noticed the distance and finally asked, "It's him, isn't it?" Ethan didn't deny it. He told Liam everything, how it started, how it grew, and how it fell apart before it even became real. Liam listened quietly, then said, "Sometimes the heart finds comfort where it shouldn't. That doesn't make you bad. It just means you're human. But now you have to heal." Ethan nodded, though healing felt impossible. Every corner of town reminded him of Marcus. The cafe where they laughed, the road where it rained, the gym where it all began. Yet slowly, he realized that holding on to pain wouldn't bring peace. He needed to let go, not because he wanted to, but because he had to. Weeks turned into months. The ache dulled but never vanished completely. Marcus still worked at the gym, but their interactions became polite and brief. No lingering looks, no quiet conversations. Once, as Ethan packed his bag to leave, Marcus called out, "You doing okay?" Ethan turned and smiled faintly. "Yeah, I'm getting there." Marcus nodded, a trace of pride in his expression. "Good, you deserve to." That was their goodbye, though neither said the words aloud. As time passed, Ethan found himself writing again. Late at night, with only a small lamp lighting his desk, he poured his heart into words. The story that emerged wasn't about guilt. It was about the kind of love that changes you, even when it can't stay. It was about a shy boy and a man who met at the wrong time, who taught each other something real before walking away. Writing became his way to understand, to forgive, to move forward. One rainy afternoon, months later, he sat by the window and watched the drops slide down the glass. The sound reminded him of that night in the car, the moment Marcus said he felt seen. Ethan smiled softly, realizing that even though it had hurt, it had also made him stronger. He had learned that love, in any form, could teach you something about yourself. He no longer resented what had happened. Some stories, he realized, aren't meant to be lived forever. They're meant to be remembered quietly, with gratitude. Love doesn't always arrive wrapped in perfection. Sometimes it arrives to awaken you, to show you the kind of person you could be. As he closed his notebook, the final line of his story stood out. Some loves end before they begin, but they leave behind something far greater, a reason to feel again. Ethan closed his eyes and breathed deeply. The world outside was still gray and wet, but inside him, there was peace. The boy who once felt invisible had learned to see himself, and even though the love he found was forbidden, it had brought him something far more lasting, understanding. He picked up his coat, stepped outside, and let the rain fall over him. For the first time in a long while, it didn't feel cold. It felt cleansing. Somewhere across town, Marcus was probably doing the same, moving on, remembering, forgiving. Maybe their paths would cross again someday, maybe not. But Ethan knew that whatever happened, the chapter they shared had changed both of them in ways words could never fully capture. Love had come and gone, leaving behind silence and healing. And as Ethan walked toward the fading horizon, he whispered to himself, "Some stories aren't meant to be forever. They're meant to teach you how to love right the next time."